So the contributions of free blacks. Free blacks were often craftsmen because they had knowledge of labor, of skills from their time in Africa. And it was also more difficult to procure land and own it to become something like a plantation owner. It was frequent that they offered personal services. So barbers were a very common job for Black people, and it was completely dominated by Black people. It was a Black job, if you will. I find that interesting because is still such an important thing for the Black community today, our barbershops and barbers. So to see that connection is fascinating. They also were able to own property, even though it was difficult. They do that through the head rights system, which was paying for somebody's passage from the New World, either slave or indentured servant. They could lease land, they could get land through land grants or inheritances, or moving west to the new frontier was also a way to gain land. Owning slaves was not uncommon for free blacks. It was sometimes through compassion, like buying your family member or a friend, but it usually was just because they were in need of some sort of cheap labor. Um, there are many prevalent myths about early Africans in the Americas. But I just picked a few of the most pervasive. And that is that Africans had no sense of land ownership. This was not true. I talked about the communal land system that they had, but they did have a sense of ownership. Even though in some cases it may have been slightly different, it was still land ownership. Um, Another myth is that slaves were kidnapped out of Africa. This is just not true. It was much more complex. Africans played a very large role. A lot of people have this idea of Europeans coming in and taking people out of their homes and placing them on ships to ship them across the ocean, and that's just not true. It is not accurate to how it was. Another myth is that slaves were unskilled laborers. Again, this is not true, and this is perhaps the most egregious one to me, because it is obvious that people had lives before they were shipped to the Americas, and they couldn't have all been unskilled laborers. It just doesn't make any sense. Um, so what more? The economic value of Africans is beyond measure. Whether they were slave laborers or if they were free and had their own business ventures, their economic value is is everything. It is everything we have today, because anything in the Americas would not have been possible without slave labor, because it was so cheap and so exploited. The culture of early Africans was interesting because they did not have the same cultures coming over, but because of their they did have some shared traditions and values, but and experiences, specifically the Middle Passage, which was very harsh, was something that they could connect on. And today, so not it's not just Black businesses that they've influenced, but the entire economy of the United States, and all businesses today have been influenced in some way by these early African slaves. Um, yeah, the African business traditions and values um, carry through to Black businesses and beyond. Um, and their cultural and economic impact are huge, and understated. Thank you for watching.